So I remember when I started as a hypnotherapist, the question was, what is the best speed induction, or how can you put your clients into deep trance faster? We were taught the look up with your eyes and then a blinking and going down the stairs and clicking. So all these classical induction techniques, but then of course there are much faster ones as well. And in ACH, this is not something that we do. So basically, if I had to answer the question, what is the best speed induction technique is, what's the problem? Yes, so the question, what's the problem? Because as soon as you ask your client what is the problem, they are off. They will tell you what the problem is, or at least they will give you a an image of what they think, of their assumptions of the problem. Now, they believe that that is the problem. However, we know that it isn't, because if it were, they would have solved it, right? If I have a problem, then I will look at how I can solve it. Yeah, I need a new car. What do I do? That's a problem that I don't have a car. Therefore, I will go and look at places where I can buy a car. I will compare, I will go personally maybe, and then I will get a car, right? So that's solving a problem. And then that is a real problem. And a proper response to that problem is to solve it. Now, when we are unable to solve our problems, it means that we are still just going round and round the symptom. So the symptom could be anything. The symptom could be fear of driving, right? And and of course, the problem is not with driving, as you will see in the therapy room immediately. It is with something else that is blocking them. So we, instead of looking at inductions, we basically start with the therapy, because what you want an induction so that they are in hypnosis, and then in hypnosis you will start your protocol, or maybe you read out the script or whatever you were taught. And if you were taught to just read out a script, that means that you are basically still dealing with the symptom, which is why you might get the client coming back again and again, or you might get a call and they might say, hey, yes, this has been resolved, but there's a new issue and I think it's related because blah. So, and it's actually, it can happen that because it comes out as something else, and often as something even worse and more negative impact on their life. So what do we do instead of inductions? We just start a conversation. We want to understand what it is that they think the problem is. We start with where they are, with the symptoms. So tell me about your fear of driving. When did it start? How long has it been there? How is it impacting your life? Yeah, so it's just general everyday questions that you would ask anybody, right? With curiosity. So instead of having that assumption that it has to go this way, you will start asking questions. So you can see, going back to induction, we don't even think about inductions because it is not necessary. We can have a conversation. Of course, you might say, yeah, but that's not hypnosis. It actually is. What makes it hypnosis is that in our everyday life, as we're having a conversation, as we go about our life, we go in and out of hypnotic moments. And that's actually how the mind works. We go internal and external and internal and external. It's a natural ability that we all have and we all use. And you can learn to spot them, and then you can learn to navigate a conversation in such a way that you bring more and more attention to them. And when that happens, then the client naturally enters a hypnotic state, a trance, where they can solve their problems. And it depends on the client. It actually can look like in everyday conversation. So your client might not close their eyes, might not visualize things, might not get emotional. They might be entirely analytic for the whole time, and yet it still changes their life because they do trance the way they do trance. Yeah, so not everybody does it in the same way, which is wonderful because all of a sudden you don't have the problem with people who say, I can't be hypnotized. If you have a problem, you can be because you have created your problem in the unconscious mind and you will retrieve it from the unconscious mind and you will solve it there. So basically, yes, you can. It just means that you do it differently. So the microtrances are there for everybody, but yes, it's true, not everybody is suggestible in the same way. Therefore, not everybody could go into deep trance, but it's not important for the work that we do. So if it were, let's say, for somebody to have um, an operation under hypnosis, that would be a different thing. Yeah, that's not what we do. What we do is basically we want to solve the underlying issue. And for that, this works really well. So much so that actually it gets there faster. And not just that, you don't need to prepare. You don't need to prepare. You don't need to buy a script, write a script, recycle a script, or create a very long and convoluted questionnaire that they have to fill in, which in my experience, most people don't really do. But let's say they do, then you spend hours just putting all together and they will listen to it or they won't, and it's kind of hit and miss. It might work with some people, it might not work, and then they come back and then you continue. Whereas with ACH, if you become really good at noticing these moments and navigating them, then you allow them to get to a place in trance where they can solve their own problem very, very fast. So they don't need any homework. And things like induction and depth of trance and all of this becomes irrelevant. They are no longer questions that you need to ask yourself.